It's Dandadan, the show where we talk about Dandadan, a manga about the Dum-de-Dums. Hot Shinobi woman. We pick up from 225 with maybe one of the most interesting chapters in recent memory, easily. And you're about to see why. We see an entrance in the middle of the forest, or at least that's what it looks like. The doors almost look like a gate, if anything, with intricate and detailed carvings of the shapes of what I assume are men and women. Though, while this seems like a random entrance to an incomplete building or an art project, there is something inside of these doors. Which, you know, this is Dandadan, makes sense. An entire extravagant mansion, no less. And further within is the same man that we saw chapters ago in 211. For the most part, he's not seemed to have changed much. Around him, however, are these gigantic roots that are growing on the walls and likely through them as Jeremy goes to ask the man if he is adapting well. He says that at this point he could fight, and displays that he somehow has both Zuma and Momo's powers. Somehow. For a second, I actually had to do a double take because Dandadan has been on an extended break period, and I've been using this to my utmost advantage to do jack. In fact, I've been doing so little that at some points I forgot that I forgot something. Now, what the hell did I forget that I forgot again? Oh, I forgot! Here is the kick in the head. Not that I need any more of those. We learn that the powers of the main Dum-de-Dums have names and origins. So, with Momo, her power is Alice, Zuma's is Hansel and Gretel, and the rest are left to our interpretations, but we will get to that later in the video. Don't you worry, you're pretty and very round. And probably shiny heads off. The man continues talking up a storm by patting himself on the back for hiring Jeremy as a consultant. At first, he had doubts based on the powers he was initially provided, but now is thankful. He then asks the question we all want to know the answer to. Because throughout all of Jeremy's confusing actions, the reason we felt that way was because we couldn't see clearly why he was giving people powers to then just take them away. As you could guess, there is a lot of effort to pull something like this off, and a lot that could go south. Well, as this happens, deja vu sets in something fierce when Hot Shinobi appears looking like Ira Same-Face Atori, which LibreOffice tried to autocorrect that name into Ira Same-Face Atari. So there you go. The reason those landfills were once full of ET cartridges is because of Ira? Along with HSW, the Enenra follows up with his own smoke show after he is allowed entrance, which is a detail. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. Jeremy pretends that he doesn't remember the Enenra as the man in the chair welcomes him. I think we probably already knew this guy because we've seen him definitely like 2 or 3 times before this, but I forgot that I forgot, so I learned that this man in this chapter is Sir Vlad, aka the G-Man. Enenra greets him and then presents his plunders. Giddy with a disgusting excitement, he urges them to hand over the Kozuka knives at once. Jeremy then compliments him as Old's heavy smoker, which basically does nothing for the Enenra, exactly the same as a backhanded comment I'd get on YouTube. And if you want to know what I mean by that, go over to my main channel where I talk about the most recent episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. And read those comments for me, please. Good God. He then stands up for himself and asks Jeremy to call him the Red Baron, but instead is given a strange comment in reply. But, Old Heavy Smoker, I'm certain I told you to refrain from using forceful measures because they are dangerous. Like, damn! Okay, dude, sorry that my name is dangerous and a forceful measure. You know, you're right. Just call me cancerous smoking addiction, actually, because I am clearly the idiot. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go flex my rock hard abs in the corner. I cry. is probably what I imagine the Enenra is thinking right about now. He then tells Jeremy that he has pride, just, like he always does. And as a warrior, he does not accept defeat or back down. So this exchange here shows the clashing between the two. He clearly feels disrespected by the dynamic between the both of them, but for some reason continues to live under the thumb of Jeremy. If he actually does mean what he says about a warrior's pride, then you would think he wouldn't need Jeremy to fulfill that warrior's code. Yet, he does. So why? That's the thing with the Enenra and, well, the Kerbati. These two feel more independent at heart to me, naturally, like they're both being manipulated, whereas the seems to be completely submissive to Jeremy. Odd. Very odd. I still retain the theory that they will both break free, but more and more it feels as if it's already much too late. I feel that Jeremy will discard them as they're too blinded by their personal trauma to see what really is happening to them. The Shinobi then respectfully asks for the Enenra's Kozuka knives as she takes them. Tatsu clearly was very proud of her design. This woman has thighs for days and collarbone for centuries. And good for her. Now her role in all this complex operation is unveiled. Using the face of a caretaker that treated Momo after she was brought back to her normal size. When Momo was knocked out, she appeared in her head to manipulate the situation to their advantage, sealing the deal before we ever truly understood anything that was happening. And maybe is the reason why Momo has amnesia. The Shinobi tells Momo that Seiko is in a perilous state and that if she prays, then she will be saved. But here's the clever part. She instructs Momo to pray as if yielding before earth and nature. In her reasoning, she says this is because humans cannot defeat that, but instead must make use of that power to pray in a way that acknowledges defeat. See how clever that is by Tatsu? I knew in the cockles of my heart that something like this would happen eventually. What we've seen thus far are the obvious attempts to get them to yield, very obviously and very poorly in most cases, but seeing as the Shinobi is who she is, it makes sense for her to use her methods of deception to manipulate her surroundings to then get the desired outcome. AKA, it's probably just easier for her to do this. And that's crazy because this is Momo we're talking about. She's just kick-ass. Her middle name should be Kick-Ass. Straight up. So that's why it's crazy that all that the Shinobi had to do was appear neutral to Momo and appeal to her love for family. But that second part is no surprise. I mean, Koki and Rin gave up each other's powers because they clearly love each other. And well, Momo loves Seiko too, so this was a no-brainer. Because what they're doing is taking advantage of their good and kind-hearted nature to get what they want. It's a tale as old as time itself. The good people will always be susceptible to evil, just as evil is always susceptible to good. It's like human tendencies or something. I forgot that I forgot. But, hot Shinobi woman. The Enenra isn't too happy about the Shinobi not helping him when she was nearby, because of course he was humiliated. And no warrior could ever be humiliated, right, Vegeta? She explains to the Whittle baby that she can only change her appearance. And if we're going on her word, because keep in mind this is a Shinobi we are talking about, then she would have been very irrelevant in a fight between her and, Hanako-san, the little girl who kicks major ass. And now I want to go back and reread that last chapter again because, Oh, it's such a good chapter. Sir Vlad then basically tells the Enenra to stop whining and to quickly enter the blades so that he may take these powers. Calm and without a hint of emotion, she inserts the blades slowly into the mechanism. Jeremy calls her Basho, which could be her actual name, though. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see, when it comes to names and stuff, I suppose. She hasn't been really properly introduced by herself yet. And the chapter ends with the power entering Vlad, as we see all of the powers that he has obtained flowing into him, and in a way, this art was very beautiful, but also kind of pissed me off, because he's picking on our Dum-Da-Dums, my friends. So we see that he has the Esper powers of Momo, makes me kind of mad. Rin's powers, which I guess would just be makes me kind of mad. Zuma's Hansel and Gretel, makes me even angrier. Koki's the Lord of the Flies, who's probably my favorite Dum-Da-Dum, so I'm pissed. And his head starts to look like an Oni because of all of this. But, you know, I can't... There's something I can't remember because I forgot this week. Where am I? Jeremy continues to use interesting language like giving permission to the hot Shinobi woman to allow the Enenra entrance. Along with that, he calls him old heavy smoker right after he pretends he doesn't even know who he is, which is intentional. Remember when I mentioned at the end of chapter 214 that Jeremy, and by the way, you're very much allowed to go back and watch that video and laugh at all of the theories I got wrong in that video, which is funny. But anyways, Jeremy was specifically using strongman tactics. This is one thing I was not wrong on. I'm not kidding when I say this is a very important aspect of Jeremy's personality. In the same ways that the hot Shinobi woman manipulates the situation to her advantage, Jeremy is doing the same. This is important, very important. Please look up strongman, please! Because I now theorize with much more confidence than before that we will definitely see the tides turn on Jeremy eventually. But I think it is already much too late for the people who believe they still have autonomy to even partake in such a thing. I think it'll be the Dum-Da-Dums who are going to do it, of course. Because that's the central running theme of the Enenra and the Cur-Baddie. They are two characters that believe they still have the autonomy to maintain their warrior's pride or their path of vengeance, respectfully. But the truth is that these things are already gone. They were long gone. They're being manipulated. We can see it clearly in black and white, literally black and white, that Jeremy gives the Enenra a compliment and then backhands him right after. So why is any of this important? Because it shows that Jeremy is in full control here. He knows how to play the Enenra and use his childish and misguided views on life, which is his warrior's pride, to control him. Warrior's pride really just means absolutely nothing. It's just a concept that he picked up to better help him cope with something which we don't know about yet. And Jeremy is fully aware of this. The truth is that the Enenra doesn't need outdated concepts such as warrior's pride. He just needs to follow his heart and his truest desires, just like anyone else. Pride, as well, comes before the fall, after all. And with the Cur-Baddie, it is the same. Do these tasks, Cur-Baddie, and you will get your path to ultimate power, so that you will never know again the powerlessness you felt when you watched all of your people be wiped out. How dare you, Cur-Baddie! Jeremy, with her, has identified power, and has adorned it on a stick with a string that is taped to her forehead using probably a ton of duct tape, because who doesn't love a good duct tape? And she mindlessly just runs around doing whatever he tells her to do. Like I said, Jeremy is a strongman just the same as Mussolini, Putin, Donald Trump, or Adolf Hitler. This is important to understand because with Jeremy, there is one thing that I am worried about. Jeremy isn't an idiot. That should definitely frighten you. Jeremy is fully aware that he knows the veil will come off their puppets' heads one day. And he already knows it will likely happen sooner than later. So let me ask you, kind viewer, what then? What do you think will happen? My guess is you all commented something different, but largely all of them retain some sort of the same idea behind it all. Jeremy already has a plan to deal with these two or even three when the time comes. The Enenra, as an example, is a yokai. He'll probably just be absorbed into the body of Sir Vlad or himself or into a Kozuka knife. The Cur-Baddie, not a yokai, may either be discarded and go back to her powerless state and be useless or even killed. Though I still kind of think that the Dum-Da-Dums will help her out eventually. Just kind of the same with the Enenra too. I think there's a good possibility our group of dumbasses will heal these two broken hearts. But Jeremy isn't playing around, my friends. Just watch and see. As for our new character, the hot Shinobi woman, I'm unsure of her role. She seems submissive to Jeremy, but who knows? She may actually have her own deep desires and motives to go along with things, but seeing as she already has expressed that she is a master of manipulation, my guess is that she is like the other two, when she is already fully prepared and understands Jeremy will betray all of them. But she's going along with it because she possibly believes that she can manipulate him back. That's a mistake. But, you know, in her mind, after all, her strongest weapon is not her body like the others, but her mind. But once again, Jeremy knows she probably knows, already seeing as he so expertly dissected the other's weaknesses too. So then what? Well, that, my friends, is the million-dollar question. But I do like this new Shinobi character. Jury is still out on if she wears any underwear, because, I mean, just look. But I do think she adds an interesting fold to the paper. We will just have to see what else is revealed about her. Next up is my favorite segment of the week, and that's when I head on over to my Discord and dive into all of your thoughts on the week's chapter. And with Discord's use of AI verification, which is unsafe, dystopian, and a slap in the face of your and my privacy, and we should definitely be very angry about it, well, I'm looking for alternatives to Discord. So please give me some in the comments below, and remember to protect your privacy from AI and shitification, and practice your civil rights. So I guess I should dedicate a majority of this week's segment to October. In fact, I'm just going to dedicate all of it because sheesh, they know a lot about stuff, my friends, and we in our server are very thankful for our resident Dandadan expert, October. Alrighty, everyone, we are here. We are now reacting to some Discord comments. Now, I'm playing with the formats each and every week, as you can clearly see, because I'm trying to make things work a little bit better for me, so I don't have to sit and edit for hours on end, because to be frank with you all, I've been doing content creation for 15 years over on my main channel, Sea Tactics, and I'm getting too old for this shit. All right, so we see here, this is, by the way, this is October week. For fucking October, let me tell you. October is the man and or woman. So they say, so Momo is Alice in Wonderland, Unji is Hansel and Gretel, Koki is Snow White, Mai or Ren are the Little Mermaid. This leaves Little Red Riding Hood, possibly Ira / Ira Shiratori. Because little girl who was lost and color red / dark pink, and Pinocchio probably Gigi / Evil Eye, because a little boy who is longing for a normal life. So yeah, I think October is this is basically what actually I had in my script originally written, and then when I was going through the Discord section in the video, getting together all the notes, I was like, oh, this, I mean, they literally just said what I was thinking. As I take off my jacket, it's so freaking hot in here. But yeah, no, I specifically do think that Momo being Alice in Wonderland, Unji, Hansel and Gretel, that's obvious. Koki is Snow White, that's clearly too, because Koki Yuki Shiro literally in Japanese means Snow White. I actually had a video planned where I would go through Snow White and compare that to Koki Yuki Shiro when her character was first kind of I think it was after the Lord of the Flies reveal. I wanted to do something like that. Never ended up doing that. May do it in the future. Still, who knows? If this video gets 6-7 billion likes, I'll think about it. Remember, I'm bipolar, so I gotta make all of... I can't literally promise you anything. I have no motivation. It's all gone. So, Little Red Riding Hood, I do think that's Ira or Acrobatic Silky, and I do think Pinocchio is Gigi or Evil Eye. I think that is also pretty clear. Plus, you know, this covers most of it. Yeah, I think this is pretty on point for October. I also like the Mai and Rin Little Mermaid thing. I actually really love the art in the last page of this chapter. It's really cool stuff. So I guess that's what Mai looks like. A mermaid. The Little Mermaid. So this right here, once again, October the GOAT, just being the GOAT, as they always are. They are replying to someone, and they basically point out that it looks like it's based on this, which is from Ava, and again, based on the Tree of Life from Judeo-Christian mysticism. It even has the angels, the tablets with 10 commandments and a menorah on it, which, as if we can zoom in here, they highlight it for us. And that's where those are. There's actually tons of other stuff on here. And you can even see the Judeo-Christian mysticism. You can see that up here in the top left, right where it says Hansel and Gretel on the right, and Alice in Wonderland. So it's the Judeo-Christian system of the 10 of 10 something. This entire image, just in general though, is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I feel like this image, the more and more we dive into it, there is going to be more and more that we are going to uncover as the chapters go on. This is not it, though. This is not all that October has for us. They say Ghost in the Shell used that tree too. Ghost in the Shell is probably besides Evangelion, the prime example of an anime using this. Besides Full Metal Alchemist, they use it as well. But this is, of course, from the legendary final scene where this is basically shot up by this mech here. Great movie, by the way. You gotta watch it. Love how Dandadan uses it for stories instead of living beings, and it seems to create an Oni, which is a spirit, but also a major story element in Japanese stories. So what I think October is referring to here is the last chapter or the last page of this chapter where I pointed out that Sir Vlad looks like an Oni. We continue on. Love how that connects Dandadan with Chainsaw Man again, where this tree was also used. Not going to say more because of spoilers. Also, you know who is known for defeating Oni? Momotaro, the folklore hero Momo is named after. Ryoken, a monk with the power of an Oni who Kin is likely based on to some degree. And Kentaro, the folk hero Kenta is named after. Of course, this is very eye-opening. And I feel like what this chapter is pointing out to us is that Dandadan, and Tatsu specifically, is pulling from a lot of things throughout human history, if anything, to develop the surrounding lore and like, I don't know, power system? Would you call it power system? I don't know if I would call it power system, but almost something like that. October then shows where this tree of life comes from. And then they say it frequently has been used in anime because it looks rad as hell, though Dandadan's version is shorter, but that's due to not all teens having yokai powers. Kenta and Vamola don't get a fairy card because they are sci-fi, not fantasy. That's what I love about this comment specifically, is that last part. Kenta and Vamola don't have one because they are not using yokai. They are using technology and sci-fi. So it's yet another blend of this fantasy sci-fi element that we all love in Dandadan. One word we can clearly read above Snow White is Sephiroth, by the way, or Sephiroth. Sephiroth is a Final Fantasy VII character. Cloud. Genova. Mother, I'm coming. You know, Sephiroth, right? But yeah, that's also where Sephiroth gets his name, by the way. So it's also used in Final Fantasy VII. Do you see the links here? It seems like everything is just based on religion at some point. But anyways, we get into something even more interesting from October, who says Ren's favorite serial killer, which Ren is a very interesting character, by the way. She's her. Ren's favorite serial killer and probably the leader of the Black Paladin. Of course, Vlad the Impaler. Everybody knows that guy. He is basically the foundation for the folklore, urban legend, like the whole thing around Dracula. He's Dracula. And we continue on here, where October says, the group Vlad was a member of could even be the template for the Black Paladin. Also, Vlad is just a really great example for a urban legend, become story, become myth, become godlike. He's probably as well known as Jesus. So that ultimate yokai is based on stories, and the ones that were picked are interesting because they are so different in origin. Skazi then replies and says, so Vlad hired Jeremy, consultant. Baron and Shinobi work for Vlad also as consultants or work under Jeremy. The diagram of the Western fairy tales is very alchemical looking, which Full Metal Alchemist. I wonder if the text on it says something or is nonsense. October replies that Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, and Red Riding Hood were collected by the brothers Grimm in Germany in the 1700s, but Red Riding Hood has origins in France in the 1600s. Alice in Wonderland was written by a British author in the late 19th century. Same for The Little Mermaid, which was written by a Danish author around the same time, and for Pinocchio, which was written by a guy from Italy in the late 1800s. Many of them had Disney adaptations, but also some various animation studies in Japan. So once again, you're probably starting to see the correlation here. So once again, you're starting to see the correlation here. What this chapter basically revealed to us, at least the way that I intuit this, is that there is this grand conspiracy behind everything, and that Jeremy probably doesn't really care about Vlad as much as Jeremy is probably using this as a way to wedge himself into a position of power so that he can probably take over. Now, the reason why I say this and the reason why I take all of this and come to this conclusion is simply just for the fact that if Jeremy can do all of this as a consultant, why wouldn't he just take control himself? We see that in some way these yokai are a part of this tree of life and that they're all connected. So why not just take control of the entire thing? I think as the chapters go on now, I think what we're going to start to see is that Jeremy is going to be at the tippy top of all of this. Yes, while he was being hired as a consultant, you would think that will put him below Sir Vlad, but I think as time goes on, I think Sir Vlad will be defeated, probably right before they fight Jeremy. And after they defeat Sir Vlad, they will get all of their powers back, which they then will have to use those powers to defeat Count Saint Germain. And that is likely where we will start to see, or begin to start to see, a lot of the allies around Jeremy begin to crumble, is when Sir Vlad begins to, well, when Sir Vlad is defeated. I don't know, that's sort of just my impressions that I get. We'll have to see, though. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for building up our community of Dum-Da-Dums. Feel free to check out even more videos, including those from my Chainsaw Man channel right here. Thank you for watching. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.